Well, it's my pleasure to welcome back Craig Sawyer, the founder of Vets for Child Rescue. Welcome to Hold the Line.
Thank you, sir. It's a privilege to be back on. It's always an honor to be here with you guys.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot to cover. For those of you who may not know you, let me just share a little bit about Vets for Child Rescue. You've had an amazing history. You joined the U.S. Marines. You're part of the SEAL team, SEAL Team 1. You were involved in Iraq, Desert Shield, Desert Storm. You were involved with mobile security. You were a motocross racing champion. Okay.
That was
Wow.
a side note for fun. Oh, boy, I
Yeah.
did
Okay.
enjoy
I
it
guess
though.
that's your diversion there.
Yeah, yeah.
And then you advised, I guess, filmmakers about military tactics and I guess the film industry. Yeah, I'm curious to hear what you may have seen in that context. You're involved with the Top Shot program and many others. And then you were motivated to found the nonprofit Vets for Child Rescue. What motivated you to found this new nonprofit?
Yeah. What I learned of the harm being done to children here in the United States on an industrial scale,
Hmm.
and coming from a covert background in counterterrorism and in the intelligence community and federal law enforcement, I saw what was going on here in the continental United States as a covert operation run at industrial scale. And for it to be that prevalent and to run with impunity at that scale, there had to be a lot of corruption, a lot of official top cover for it to prevail like it is. And so I prayed on it in my best understanding of how to combat this harm to children, this nasty demonic, it is demonic attack on the children, is to expose the operation, to compromise it, we would say, in the intelligence community, and cause the American populace to see it and understand it, and so that they can lock arms in front of the children and say no more. So we have to stand up and revolt, literally revolt against this and drive this out of our culture so that we can protect the children again. Because right now they're being destroyed at a deeply disturbing rate.
You know, it's interesting because people during the past several years, there's a lot of discussion about slavery, horrific, very
Yeah.
tragic history that our country has with slavery of Black people from Africa. But the reality is, from what you're saying, there's slavery going on right now.
There is more slavery. There is more slavery happening right now than there has ever been in our country. It is covert and it is kept deliberately from the people. And that's what Veterans for Child Rescue is doing, is gathering the factual evidence and demonstrating it to the people without refute so that they can see it. Because if anybody's complaining about the slavery in the past, I stand with them. I denounce it and rebuke it and reject it too. It is not acceptable. But the fact is, there's a greater level of harm and slavery happening right now. And if we genuinely care about those who are enslaved and harmed, we have to stand up and face what's happening right under our noses. We can't turn away and say, well, I want to be selective about my outrage and direct it at another country or another time. No, it's happening here. It's happening now. It is incumbent upon us, we the American people, to have the moral courage to stand up and face it and say, this is not okay. We will not allow it. And we will assert ourselves to the degree appropriate to drive this from our culture. This is what's on our plate right now.
It makes you wonder, by focusing on something that happened more than 150 years ago, you almost wonder whether there's a distraction going on to not have people think about what's actually happening in the present moment. We can't do anything about the past, obviously, but there's something we could do right now. And you actually made a documentary called Contraland, which I highly recommend to all the viewers. But you would imagine that Netflix and the other platforms would want to show that to their audience. Um, did you get any cooperation from the media platforms, or?
No, nobody wants this to be known. Nobody at the top, because once you realize that they are all saturated, these corporations and entities are all saturated with those that are on board with this antichrist spirit, really is what you're dealing with. But this globalist, power grabbing cabal, they're all about control and power. And what they do to children is what protects them from compromise. It protects them from being seen and being prosecuted. And they don't want the truth out because it diminishes their ability to continue grabbing power and control. And so once you peel back all the layers of the onion, that's what you discover. And so, no, they don't want it out there because it's the opposite of what they want. They want the American populace dumbed down, divided, demoralized, and easily taken over. And this film, Contraland, empowers the people with the brutal truth of what we're facing.
My understanding is that there was a scene in the movie that they wanted you to remove, and then they would consider showing it. Tell what was the part of the Contraland documentary? I believe there was a scene with a public official who was, I guess, arrested.
I'm not aware of anyone requesting that to
Okay.
be removed. We did catch a high-level official in Utah of a church that pretends to be a Christian religion, but at the very top levels, we've learned they are the exact opposite. And I would say about 90% of their parishioners are unwitting as to what their top officials are actually into and the harm that's happening there. We'll get into that later as we can demonstrate the factual evidence, but it'll blow the lid off of that religion. There's so much harm happening to the children within that seemingly wholesome religion, but at the top, it's utterly corrupt. So he was put away. He came for 2 girls. My daughter was one of them. And he paid money. He came with a pocket full of Viagra, condoms, and sex lube to rape 2 girls, first separately and then together. And the judge he should have spent the rest of his life in prison. He was 73 years old at the time. We had 2 of his granddaughters call us and thank us for putting a stop to his raping binge. The judge let him out within 3 years, saying, well, he's too old. What harm could he be?
Wow. That is
yeah, that's a lot of harm. So only God knows how many children he's raped since that judge in Utah let this senior official, senior elder of this church back out to begin his raping again. So there was another one who had been FBI, and his father and his grandfather before him. For whatever reason, he found himself not in the FBI, but over into the Department of Treasury, IRS. He came for a mother-daughter, and he brought a birthday cake for a 12-year-old girl that he thought was turning 13, the same age as one of his own children. Ugly, ugly stuff. Another one was an Army recruiter, sadly. So there's so much harm happening, and this evil can manifest in the heart of any man. So it's not one particular institution or agency, but it is mankind. It's an individual thing, but it spreads its roots and tentacles around everything it can. So we need to realize that children have to be off limits for any abuse and any sexual behavior. They're just not wired for that. They are God's purest and most innocent. And that is specifically why the evil ones target them for this level of trauma and abuse.
What about the issue of blackmail? I mean, can you explain how does this child trafficking lead to political power or control over political officials?
Okay, the globe's various intelligence agencies from different nations conduct what we refer to as brownstoning operations. So if you take a classic example of it, Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, They would fly people by private jet to make them feel like they were completely escaping the scrutiny of the general public. Fly them to an island where they have mansions and temples and underground facilities where these people are allowed to have their way, and there's every manner of debauchery available to them, every manner of drugs, every manner of prostitution, and there's seemingly no rules in these gatherings. And they target political officials, elected officials, corporate leaders, people that they want to control. And when those people of low moral values and no scruples come and they follow their nose and they do what they do, it's all on camera. The entire facility is wired with covert cameras. From that night on, that targeted individual is controlled by this cabal who've captured them raping small boys or girls or doing whatever they've done on camera. And they answer to those people rather than you and me, the American tax-paying citizen. And that's one reason why we don't get what we're voting for anymore. They're compromised. They are corrupted in this way.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. You see certain politicians who promise to vote a certain way, and then all of a sudden, at the very last minute, they change their vote. And you wonder, they've been talking about their conservatism and fiscal responsibility, and then all of a sudden they change their vote, and you wonder, I mean, I wonder anyway, just what is going on here? Is someone controlling them? So
yeah, one of the reasons is they are on video raping small children, boys or girls or both. That's one of the main points of control that's compromising our elected officials right now. That's why it's so important. It's imperative that we select individuals with strong moral character who will act in good faith when no one's looking, because we have observed in recent decades, government officials will do whatever they want because there's no justice anymore. There's no Justice Department that's bringing those who are obviously corrupt to account. They are not being arrested and prosecuted. So we have to elect people who will act in good faith when nobody's watching.
what about the connection to pornography? What is the, I'm curious if you have any comment about the.
Pornography is a big factor in all this.
Right.
If you consider the sexuality and addiction, when weak charactered men begin observing sexual activity on a large scale, they're consuming so much of it, they get numb to what is normal and healthy and natural.
Right.
Just like any addiction, first a little will do it, and then in time a little won't do it. So it has to be more and more strange until they get all the way into the deeply perverse, the sick, the harmful, and even the fatal snuff flicks, they call them, just the utterly demonic slowly takes over. And these men become monsters because they imagine that what they're witnessing on video is what they're supposed to be doing with their lovers, and their lovers they're not wired that way. They're not, that's not normal and natural or pleasurable for them. So there's a huge disconnect there. And this plague of pornography is destroying marriages, and it's causing so many little ones, children, to be so deeply traumatized and harmed by this. Children are not to be included in our sexual behavior at all. They're not wired that way. They're not meant for it. And so it's a perversion and a distortion of God's ways to include children in any way and under any excuse in anything sexual.
You know, I wonder if this is one of the reasons for the attack on biblical values, Christianity.
Yes, it is.
I think the pagan cultures, I believe they accepted a lot of adult child sex and sex with animals, and then with the revelation through Moses and the scriptures really condemning that, right? Condemning that and as evil and perverse. And it seems as if they want to get rid of Christianity because that's the main thing that's preventing them, you know, at least from if they can remove the teaching that condemns their behavior, then they're free, right? They're
100%,
yeah,
100%. You're looking at a group of weak men and women,
yeah.
those with the weakest of moral character. Okay. They will subscribe to any manner of abuse to have even a temporary and foolish level of control and power. That was what we're witnessing worldwide. These are those who will join these satanic cults and conduct unspeakable horrors upon children for that temporary power and control and membership into these satanic cults. These satanic cults have now permeated many of our highest institutions and even some religions claiming to be Christian religions. When you start seeing a lot of children harmed by the officials at the top of any religion, we need to start digging deeper behind that religion and see what's really going on there. Because at the top ranks, it inevitably, it's not what it's advertised to be. If they harm children, it's not okay. It is an abomination before the Lord, and it is condemned. And they are dooming themselves by doing this to children. And we must all start investigating, peeling back the layers of the onion and seeing what's going on in these institutions, whether it's a political institution, a religious institution, or any other. When we start seeing signs and symptoms of a lot of the children being harmed, we have to dig further and reject it and put a stop to it. And so let me tell you just a little bit about what we've learned more recently with a lot of interviews with satanic ritual abuse survivors. I'll put a cap on it by cutting right to the chase. One of the skits that we're hearing all across the country that have been done over the decades, again and again and again, from different witnesses and survivors that don't know each other, but have all been in therapy and healing to recover from the harm that was done to them. Ugly, but this will cause it all to make sense on the bigger scale. There's a lot of theatrics done. There's a lot of costumes and makeup and props used to turn these children's minds always against Jesus Christ. When they are, I'm gonna soften this for delivery because it would sicken everybody, and we may not even be able to air it if I told you what really happens. They are conducting unspeakable harm to a child in a ritual, and they force this young child to call out for Jesus to come save her or him. They're causing great pain and great trauma to this child, and they force the child to call out for Jesus. Well, one of them, the satanic cult members dressed up like Jesus, walks into the temple, in many cases, into this room where this horror is being done to this innocent child, and continues the harm, but even worse, and betrays the child and abandons the child. Okay.
Wow.
They mean for this child to believe that it's Jesus doing this to her or him. Then this child is walked through a veil into another space within this temple. And there sits someone dressed up like Satan with what is described to be a picnic laid out before him. And he uses language like, oh, I'm sorry that wimpy Jesus harmed you and betrayed you. Satan, would never do that. You can have anything you want here with me. I am all powerful. We kicked Jesus out. He has no power here, but I have all the power. I will always take care of you. So, man, if you understand that this is what Satan has his followers do to the children, that this is what they mean to do, to drive the children away from their creator, away from their salvation, away from the love and the power that they have, and down into this fear state, this distorted, horrified trauma state, where they believe that somehow Satan is the solution and Satan controls that realm, then you understand Satan's plan globally. So take the same intention of this little skit that's done to so many precious children and blow it up to global scale.
Right.
Now you can understand what this global cult this globalist cabal means to do. Yuri Bezmenov warned us about it with the ideological subversion. G. Edward Griffin warned us about it. The 45 communist goals states what they are out to do. This is all demonic. This comes straight from Satan himself.
Right.
They mean for the global populace to turn away from Jesus Christ and turn to their own selfish, divided, traumatized, lusty greed, where Satan controls everything so that he can have their souls and draw them down into hell rather than them going to paradise, to heaven. That's it. It's a war over souls. And that on the global scale, it's just a little more sophisticated and it's a little more subtle because we as adults have a lot more wisdom and experience and hopefully discernment than a small child does. But let me share you something very beautiful that's happened so many times. And it's happened even with my own wife and her early trauma and abuse. So many times when these children are being traumatized so horrifically, the spiritual veil is torn open. They can see into the spirit realm. They can see the demonic and they can see the divine. They often see Jesus himself because he'll come and comfort them. One case, this woman, she's fully grown now and she's been through decades of therapy and healing, and she's an amazing, highly intelligent person, relaying the factual evidence, relaying her experience in good faith of what she experienced. She said when she was being raped by this costumed Jesus, this man, this demonic man, she was able to see Jesus himself in his glory and she knew it was him because he had the holes in his hands. And he approached her and he told her she was going to be okay. And he comforted her through this. Now, this happened with my own wife. My own wife said every time Jesus would come to her and say, sweetie, you don't need to be here right now for this. Come with me. And he would walk her to a beautiful place by a stream with a big flat rock where they would sit down and he would hold her. And she says, Craig, it was so physical, so tangible. I know what his robe smells like. I know what it smells like. If I had the words, I could describe it to you and recreate it for you. I know.
Wow.
I'm like, what a beautiful, beautiful thing. In this horror, in this attempted distortion of this child's understanding, so many times they can see what's really going on. So there is no defeating the creator by Satan. Satan's efforts are futile. They are foolish and they are doomed. And so, but what we're witnessing is this clash between the forces of good and evil. And it's never Hare Krishna or Buddha or Allah or anyone else that they bring in to defile these children with. It's Jesus Christ.
That's
other.
The one that they hate. Okay.
That's revealing. That lets you know who the power is, right? That's the one. And there's no other that comes to the children in their time of trauma and rescues them and takes their soul out of their body and comforts them other than Jesus Christ. And I'll tell you right now, Russ Disdar's crew, who's done so much demonic deliverance ministry over the decades, say, Craig, there's no other name that we speak where there's any response. But when we speak to the demonically possessed, the name of Jesus, there is a frantic desperation and a response to get away. So that's the name. And they said, Craig, you don't even have to, because I asked them about it. I said, should we speak it in the ancient Hebrew? Like I personally prefer to speak the name like in the ancient Hebrew, Yeshua or Yahusha or Yahweh or Yahweh Sabaoth, the great I am, Lord of hosts. And they're like, no, you don't even have to say it that way. Just speak it. Jesus, just plain the Americanized version it's totally understood in the spirit realm. You don't have to translate. It's all, speak it any way you want. They know what you mean. And the power is absolute. So what a beautiful, beautiful thing. But yeah, that's who we're dealing with. Yeah, there are principalities and all these other entities, but they all serve Satan on the dark side. And you've got the different levels of angels, but they all serve Jesus Christ, the Father in heaven. So there's two entities that are at war.
Right.
And that's what we're witnessing, all the symptoms of this spiritual conflict.
One thing that I can't really understand is if these people, they know that there is a spiritual world, and they know we are all going to the spirit. None of us are going to live forever. We're all going to be, you could say, promoted to the spirit world, and they have no fear. They have no fear of being judged. I mean, I just don't. It's irrational. I don't know what the explanation is, but
Sir, I join you in this, being confounded by their lack of wisdom and discernment on which way to go. God has given us free will.
right,
And
right.
for whatever reason, there's a percentage of mankind who, instead of choosing righteousness, chooses rebellion.
Right.
And these are among those men.
Yeah, yeah.
They've chosen it. There is cause and effect in this world. So their actions harm many, many others, but there's a severe price to pay for it. The Bible's clear about that.
Right.
They will not escape. And I do not want to be anywhere near them on their judgment day. I don't know what that looks like, but I could just try to comprehend the judgment. But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. And for the rest of my days, I will serve the kingdom of heaven for all that I'm worth. And it's a privilege.
Let me ask you a question. There's the issue of the public schools, and you would expect that, look, most parents, they trust the public schools to teach their children, of course, the basics of math, reading, writing, and history, and the issue of healthy relationships and how to be healthy. But it seems like there's something wrong going on, particularly the way we're talking to young people about, well, are you a boy or girl? I mean, even from a young age, with with this transgenderism. I'm curious if you have any comment about what is going on in the schools. And I mean,
Absolutely.
programs like Vets for Child Rescue. I don't know if you ever go into schools and talk about this topic, but maybe there should be a curriculum related to your work. Well, what is your comment?
Okay, we're fighting this mechanism, this political mechanism that is spreading this evil around the world is global Marxism. Karl Marx was a literal Luciferian. He worshiped evil. He was a sick mind.
Right.
And it's his principles that they're utilizing politically to gain power. Okay, but they serve Satan. These people want control of everything, and they are ravenous in their lust for control and power, and they have become masters at gaining control from the bottom up. The grassroots movement, man, the political organizers, it's all infested with these radical, demonic, radical leftist Marxist mindset people. So they train each other. They have many agents that are paid that they go around and recruit and promote, and they put people in every single institution they can from the bottom up, and they make sure they have control. And so that's why our school boards are infested with this. That's why those people buying the school books and determining what our children are taught, they're all driven by the same demonic rampage. It's a war on children because the children are the purest and most precious and innocent. So this is Satan's way of making war on their little ones, making sure they do not learn that which is empowering, with the knowledge that would cause them to be able to be healthy, strong adults. The nuclear family unit, the strong, loving mother and father unit, that's under attack. Everything that would cause the children to be well secured, well empowered, and highly educated on the knowledge they need to know to grow up to be strong men and women of God and follow their path and choose for themselves without pressure which way they want to go. That's all being undermined and manipulated. So that's what you're seeing. That's why there's this drag queen story hour and all this vile filth being brought against the children. It's horrific. That's why you have utterly corrupt agencies that are now infested by those with demonic spirits in their hearts, going after with frantic desperation concerned mothers, standing up at school board meetings, asking hard questions as to why their elementary school children are being defiled and shown such vulgar pornographic material
Right.
that the mother would get kicked off of social media as an adult for showing the same
Right.
content.
Yeah, and they're labeling parents as potential domestic terrorists. I mean,
Yes.
it's
It's
insane.
laughable. It's
Yeah,
ridiculous.
yeah,
It's utterly ridiculous. And everyone with a rational, sane adult mind knows it's ridiculous, but that's why we're deleted, we're censored, we're banned, we're hidden, because they need to distort and control the narrative. So that's why there's so much frantic desperation over social media and the news media and even the entertainment industry to distort our perception of who's winning this war.
right. Well, there's definitely an attempt to demoralize the American people and make people feel helpless, and which is why
100%.
I really admire the work that you do, and you're giving people hope that we can stop. We can stop. I guess piece by piece, you rescue one person at a time or a group of young people at a time. And well, what can people do? What can people do to help your work, or what could people do in their local town? What advice do you have?
Number one, start prayer networks, praying against this
Right.
cloaking, this veil of secrecy that hides this demonic rampage against our children worldwide.
Okay.
This whole global Marxist political agenda is demonically driven. They are having that. Look, the folks on the demonic left, on the radical satanic cult groups, they are dedicated, man. They put on their robes and they have ceremonies and they pray against us and
Mm,
against Jesus Christ and what he's doing here. We need to get more active in having dedicated prayer warrior groups praying against this harm, this
mm,
war against the children and against all of our souls worldwide. We need to get busy praying. That is how this war is made, and we need to begin sharing the truth
mhm.
on it so that people understand what's going on. So we have our website, v4cr.org, loaded with all manner of tools and empowerment, knowledge, what's going on, what you need to know, and what you can do against it. We need to get these Soros-funded DAs and attorneys general and judges off the bench. He has funded their campaigns with the agreement. It should be illegal to do so, but he has funded their campaigns with the agreement that they will not prosecute very harmful crimes, entire categories of crimes, including child rape and child trafficking. This is a glaring conflict of interest. We should never have allowed it. But now that it's happened, we must undo it. We must identify these judges. They're in the attorneys or the AGs. I'm sorry, the DAs in every major city now are corrupted. They are, look at them. If they've got George Soros funding, they are corrupt and they need to be voted off the bench and replaced with those who will act in good faith. Because the children are not being protected right now. And that's why child trafficking and child rape crimes are completely spinning out of control. This is not, we cannot survive this as a nation. God will judge us for it. And I believe now's the time when this is all coming out. It seems to be God's preordained time for this to be exposed so that we, the American populace, can make a choice. Either rise up and revolt against it in good faith. That's the only righteous call, and drive this filth from our culture, or turn a blind eye to it and say, oh, I just can't. It's too ugly, and allow it to continue. If we do that, I believe Revelations lays out that we will be the subject of God's judgment. And it's very harsh. Very harsh. If we are, in fact, Babylon the Great, mother of harlots, as it looks like to me, I still have hope that it's not us, but I don't see any other nation that fits that other than the United States. If that's us, our country burns to the ground within 1 hour. That could be a nuclear exchange, or that could be a super volcano that blows, that they call a continent killer, that would vaporize 2/3 of our continent in one blast, and then kill everything else with all the toxic waste and the cloud cover and everything else that follows up and just buried mountains of ash and everything else. There's a lot of ways that God can bring his judgment. He doesn't need a nuclear exchange or a continent killing super volcano to do it,
Right.
but those are in place, and that could happen at a moment's notice. So we have a choice to make. We have a choice to make, and that's why all this is coming to light now, as I believe it's God's time that we are to see it and make that choice as a nation.
Well, the wonderful thing is there are groups like Vets for Child Rescue, and I really want to encourage everyone to go to the website vets the number 4 childrescue.org, and there's many. You have a weekly radio show. You have so many resources and articles about the
Yes.
media and other things that people can learn, can educate themselves. Well, I want to thank you for coming on Hold the Line today, Mr. Sawyer. We really love what you do, and we pray for you for your victory.
Thank you. Thank you. It'll be all of our victory, because the children, man, they're all children of God. They are all precious and innocent, and they are worthy of everyone's protection. So we're all in this together. All our children are being targeted and are under attack. So thank you for amplifying the message, getting the truth out to the people. God bless all you guys.
All right,
Appreciate
take
you very
care.
much.
All right, God bless.